psychological abuse, it often is not very apparent. Not many people realize they're getting psychologically abused. It could, of course, be name calling, it could be yelling, it could be insulting, it could be mocking, and of course, it could be ignoring and something like passive aggression. Someone who constantly is trying to belittle you, who's trying to make you feel very ignored. Now, emotional abuse is often related to psychological abuse and deals with often chronic verbal aggression. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of people who may not have experienced it, but who may have come across people who verbally abuse others. They could be intentionally frightening. They could also resort to lying, and they could withhold information intentionally to get a sense of power. And the other one is, of course, criticizing, like I mentioned earlier, and unreasonably ordering people around, which gives them a certain sense of power because they are able to abuse at their own free will. We now come to verbal abuse. Now, verbal abuse, after we come to the emotional and psychological abuse, I'm sure verbal abuse is something which you all could be familiar about. We come to a situation where people wish to control your thoughts and your views purely for the sake of getting that person under control. And it's not only name calling, it's also the silent treatment. We come to physical abuse. Now, you may wonder, why am I speaking so quickly about the different kinds of abuse? For the simple reason that we do not require to know how many different kinds of abuse are there, but more we require on how can we prevent abuse, which is what this session is going to be. So when I talk about physical abuse here, it's a non-accidental use of force and violence, which could be causing bodily pain or injury. Children who have got special needs, orphans, the elders, people with disabilities, they are all very much prone to physical abuse. Also, neglect. When we talk of cycle, many a time you find people initially getting threatened. They get threatened, they get physically abused, and then the apology, and it becomes a vicious circle. We now come to examples of physical abuse, which could also be getting burned, getting tied up, getting stabbed, or getting drugged, refusal to allow sleep, and inflicting pain as well. We come to now sexual assault, which of course, as you all would be familiar in terms of the number of cases all over the world today. Sexual assault, unfortunately, today, all the more, we find that it is extremely common as a kind of abuse. Abuse against both genders, against children. And we wonder just why should abuse be going up on the rise, whether it's physical or whether it is sexual. Many a time people are either reluctant to talk about what they may have experienced because of a certain stigma from society, because they just don't want to see themselves as a victim, okay? Number one. Number two is that they would rather keep quiet because it can raise people's eyebrows. People would, oh, this has happened. If there is a tendency for a person to be passive, to just take whatever is in terms of reactions, you're quiet about it, you accept it, this may not be something which will help you. It is time that you are able to speak up. Now, speaking up does not mean you have to be aggressive. You can be assertive. Now, there is a difference between aggression and assertive. A person is assertive you will not be considering the person to be very aggressive. Aggressive is many a time, what do you want? Now that is a kind of an aggressive tone here. But if you want to say, I do not like what is happening, that is a display of assertiveness. And for those people who have a tendency, who happens to be the person who verbally abuses, I would like you to think about this fact that if you find your tone aggressive, start being conscious about how you communicate with people. Because sometimes the intention may not be to be aggressive, but the way how it comes across is aggressive. So making sure you are aware of how you speak also makes a difference to the person who is receiving your communication. Now, when you're a parent, there is, of course, a lot of things that you are able to do at this point of time. Teaching children exactly what is the kind of appropriate behavior that they should expect from other adults. Now, when you're a parent, there is, of course, a lot of things that you are able to do at this point of time. Teaching children exactly what is the kind of appropriate behavior that they should expect from other adults. I think as Hamna had very, very correctly mentioned about a parent's concern, best would be when the child is small, start enabling the child to be aware of how appropriate it is when someone touches in terms of behavior, in terms of the voice. I think all that will help a child understand what is okay and what is not permitted. The next thing is, it's very important to be able to say no to something that you are not comfortable with. There are always situations where you come across people who are a little, probably they are getting into your space. They are asking for you things that you are not comfortable about. And these are people who are in your regular life, people whom you come across. It could be your colleagues, it could be some of your relatives, but you are not comfortable with that. Be assertive and very clearly state no for things you do not feel comfortable about. Because that is the first way of standing up for yourself and speaking up for what you consider is right. Now, as far as children are concerned, I think it's extremely very, very crucial that parents develop a very, very strong bond with the children. But what is important is take action. And this action has to be something which is practical, but which is purposeful and intentional to make the abuse stop. How best can we serve the community? By reaching out. If your daughter or son is going to a school and you know child abuse is a problem, find out, get to know the other parents, speak to them, discuss with them, see how can you create awareness and protect not just your child, but also other children. I have been noticing that not everyone is aware that they may be getting abused.
True.
Because they consider that, oh, this is the way the person is. For example, if it's perhaps a woman who's all the time screaming at home, oh, that's just the way how she behaves. And if it's a man also, oh, that's just the way he behaves. So people don't realize it. And they experience the pain of an abuse for a very long time. And this causes them unnecessary stress and problem as well.